Happy New Year, everybody. This is episode number 30, first episode of year 2025. I'm your host, Jim Whalen. Along with me is my friend, my colleague, my consigliere, Jerry Calla. Jerry, how was your holidays?
It was
How
good,
was
Jimmy. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everyone.
yeah,
Holidays were good.
you're joking. I'm still wearing a holiday shirt, so we got a couple more days left of the holiday.
Always dressed to impress, my friend.
So, have you gotten over your Red Bulls?
Yes, I got over it, and we're off to it looks to be a very promising off season. The scary thing is, before you know it, they open up at the end of February. It's scary how the MLS, it just seems to keep rolling. So they open up in February at the end of the month in Cincinnati. So it'll be a cold one, and then they open up March 1st at home at the Cathedral of American Soccer, which will be formerly Red Bull Arena, which is now Sports Illustrated Stadium.
Yeah, no kidding. So I didn't know that. I know they changed the name. I forgot it was Sports Illustrated Stadium, but like the Premier League's still going on. When are they?
Well, the MLS is on a different calendar. Premier League is August to May, and then they'll do the summer friendlies, and then the regular season starts in August. That's pretty much the FIFA schedule. Most MLS is actually talking about going to that schedule. It would make life easier for the national team and for everything else involved, but we'll see.
All right. Well, let's dive into the Giants. They had a victory on Sunday, 3-13. What'd you think? Did you watch the game? What'd you think of the game? High scoring game. What was your thoughts on it? I think it was refreshing that the Giants went out with a win in their building. I saw a lot of stuff on social media saying, them and the Devils have the same amount of wins in 2024 with one win. So, what was your take on the game? We saw our friend Joe Flacco make an appearance.
The pride of Delaware.
Yeah, he's been around forever.
Yeah.
So it seems like, but he's still flinging it. So, what do you think of the game on Sunday?
I was, listen, I was surprised. I mean, it was more of a disappointing loss for the Colts. They're fighting for a playoff spot, and to give up that many points against the Giants, is absolutely atrocious. A friend of mine is a Colts fan. He was at the game, and he was just shocked, I think is the right word. I mean, Drew Lock came out 300 yards passing, ran for a touchdown. The first time that's been done since Eli.
Yeah.
300, a quarterback with 300 plus yards and a rushing TD. Drew Lock looked good. He extended plays. He moved around the pocket, in and out of the pocket well. And again, what the game does is it pisses off a lot of fans. It kills draft, location. But at the end of the day, the positive of it is you see what Malik Neighbors can be with good quarterback play. And, again, it was almost like, where did this come from? I mean, the Colts were playing for something. The Giants had a lot of injuries, as we all know. And again, you saw, Tracy, Tyrone Tracy and Neighbors afterward become, the third duo to have 1,000 yards rookies to 1,000 yards from scrimmage. So
I think you said it last.
Very exciting in that aspect, and it kind of shows you the strength of the 2024 draft class that Joe Shane put together.
Definitely. So, and that was a nice thing. I think you called it last episode, saying that Neighbors, how he got 1,000 yards with only with four different quarterbacks throwing him the ball. So he really is a talent. He's one of the bright spots of the future. So hopefully, and Tracy was a steal. He definitely became the feature back we all thought Singletary would be.
Correct.
And Tracy. So that has a lot of potential. But I think the elephant in the room is Sunday they're playing Philly. Saquon Barkley decided to sit out. He's not going to chase Eric Dickerson and save himself for the playoffs. Hurts was going through the concussion protocol. You might see Pickett, Jersey guy, got drafted by Pittsburgh, playing. What do you think about Sunday's game in Philly? I think that I can't see them coming out with a win. I think that there's too many holes. But what do you think about Giants finishing the
I
season?
mean, again, to be clear, Barkley initiated that he wanted to play. Sirianni basically, Barkley said he was willing to play. I think it was more of Sirianni shutting everybody down. I think yesterday's practice, they had a laundry list of injuries. The game means really nothing for Philly. Barkley had a great quote. He said, "I didn't come here to break Eric Dickerson's record. I came here to win a Super Bowl." So, what happens is, it would be nice as you're looking at the game for the Giant organization, it would be nice for them to end that horrid streak against the Eagles. If you're looking at the game through the glasses of most fans, they want to try to regain some draft leverage, possibly slide back up. It wouldn't surprise me if they win. It really wouldn't. There's a lot of people there. Darius Slayton, Drew Lock. There's a lot of people that really don't know where they're going to be next year.
Yeah.
It's another game to audition. And I think, what's clear in the NFL is the NFL, you hear the term, putting it on tape, putting stuff on tape. These guys are playing for their livelihoods. They're playing for their careers. They're not about to tank. They're really not. I mean, you could have made the argument, if you really want to, and John Mara doesn't want to give John Mara, no matter what anybody thinks, he's not signing off. You don't want that culture of you tanking, conscientiously, and nobody's ever going to verbalize that. A coach is never going to go to a player, "Hey, we're looking to tank. How about you sit out?" I mean, Malik Neighbors could have sat out. He's not healthy.
Yeah.
I give him credit. He went out there. A lot of people were expecting that to be a game time decision, and he played.
Yeah, well, I think it was a good showing for the Giants. I mean, it gave
It
us,
was.
yeah, I mean, for the season ticket holders, which it was definitely something that they can hang their hat on. Yeah, at least they ended up on a high note. Like I said, Indy was fighting for a playoff spot, and it was an offensive game. I think Drew Lock, like you said, I don't know if he's going to be with the Giants or somewhere else, but somebody's going to take a chance on him.
Absolutely.
He still has
Yeah.
a lot in the tank. I mean, when he's surrounded by a lot of pieces, I mean, I don't know where he's going to end up, but I don't know. We'll see. But I think, Philly's a tough place to play no matter where you are. They lost Kelsey. Their offensive line is still, is still one of the best in the league. But what the elephant in the room, though, is what do you think happens with Shane and Dable? We've been beating this to death the last couple shows, and I think most Giant fans are saying the same thing. Do they let him go, or do they draft a quarterback? I think those are the two ways that the Giants are going to go. I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on either quarterback. I mean, if they draft him, I definitely would support him and support the team. But I don't know. Where do you see this franchise going in the future?
Well, let me tell you, if they win, if they do beat Philly, they'll go down to like 9. So, I mean, that argument will be, the whole quarterback thing will be out, unless they trade up, which is going to cause, especially if New England remains at 1, they're in the driver's seat. They have May, so the price tag will obviously be high. So here's the thing. What I find interesting is I saw from our friends Talking Giants on their Instagram account, they did a poll, and 83% of Giant fans that answered the poll said Joe Shane should be fired. Then when it came to Brian Dable, it was almost like 50-50, which I find interesting. My opinion on that is that what I think would be a mistake is firing one and not the other, because I don't think the baby should be split, because I just, listen, Shane put together this roster. As much as I think Brian Dable's a good coach, I think Shane comes off with the Hard Knocks, Barkley, a lot of things that we've talked about on previous episodes with a lot of egg on his face. And I don't think you can fire, or you should fire, Shane and keep Dable, and vice versa. I just don't think. I think they're tied at the hip. I think if you're going to clean house, you have to go all the way. I really mean that. Now, with all that being said, John Mara is, I think he's become, I don't want to say unpredictable. This is not a cop out. Come Monday, Black Monday, the day after the season, if he announces that they both stay, I wouldn't entirely be shocked. And if he fires them, I wouldn't entirely be shocked.
Yeah, I'm right there with you because we've seen stranger things happen, especially
Right.
on that. And then who knows if they're in a rebuild? What are you gonna do? Rebuild with a new coach, and then 3 years from now, have the same situation. So I mean, but we talked about this off camera. That's not the only game in town. They share the stadium with the Jets. I think the Jets interviewed Louis Riddick, who has
Yes.
always been rumored as having a GM. We know him from being a color commentator in football games. So and then they also, I guess, interviewed Rex Ryan, and then they also were going to interview Ron Rivera. So it looks like they're going.
And
And
today
I don't know.
today they scored an interview with Vrabel, soon to
So
come.
So I think Vrabel is going to be the hot topic. We talked about some other potential landing spots for Vrabel. Does Mayo get the axe up in New England, and then does he go back up there? I mean, I don't know. With Belichick taking the North Carolina job, it definitely changed the landscape, I think, for where he wants to go. I mean, he had success in Tennessee. They never really made it to the Super Bowl, but I think he took the team as far as he can go with them. Losing Henry, they didn't. They couldn't do anything else. That was a big chip that they lost. But where do you see Vrabel going? Do you think he would consider either the Giants and or the Jets?
I think he knows that he's in the driver's seat. From all reports, he wants to go and basically have a situation where he has the final say, and he kind of brings in his own personnel guy. So the guy would be the general manager, but really in title only. The Giants have never, ever, ever, ever done that with a coach. The Giants have made it clear since going back, as long as you could go back, that the structure is a GM and the coach reports to the GM. That's the way it was. Ray Perkins to George Young, Bill Parcells to George Young, Coughlin, Fossil, Ernie Accorsi, Coughlin, Ernie Accorsi, Jerry Reese, Dave Gettleman, Judge, so on and so forth. The Giants have never said, hey, you know what? We like so-and-so, we'll give you, total control. It's never happened. And I don't see, if that is true, I don't see that happening with Vrabel coming to the Giants under those terms. I also don't see Vrabel going to the Jets. I really don't. Obviously, he's the hot guy. He'll interview. Quite frankly, I don't know how many people really want to work for Woody Johnson. That has to be a factor. That is a factor.
And then also Rodgers,
well, that's a whole other story.
With Rodgers, so.
Right.
So we'll see, but I think that the season went sideways real fast. I think in September they were playing well, they were playing hard, but I could just see them getting fired and them starting from scratch. But like you said, you brought this up off camera with Joe Judge. They waited 10 days and then got rid of Judge. And I think if they're going to do it, they're going to do it quick, rip the Band-Aid off, and then just be actively looking for somebody the week up, because Johnson's a hot commodity. He's gonna demand a high number. There's a couple other prospects out there, there are perspectives out there, but the biggest thing is just getting the GM. So where do you go from? I mean, do you elevate Schoen's? You
Well, I
elevate.
mean, again, there's Brandon Brown who they scooped up from the Eagles. He interviewed for several GM jobs last year, and he decided to remove his name and stay with the Giants. He's an up and coming guy. I would say that's a possibility. He's very well liked inside the organization. I wouldn't rule that out. But again, you know, would the fans? Not that we're not that John Mara is doing things to appease to the fans. Is that a total culture change that you're looking for? Most people would argue that you should bring somebody from outside the building. I mean, Louis Riddick has interviewed for the Giant job. Louis Riddick has interviewed for a lot of different executive positions. He was with Washington for a little bit. He has some ties to Belichick, to Saban. But, how comfortable is he in the booth? Is somebody willing to give him the keys? Thomas Dimitrov, ex-GM of the Falcons, he interviewed for the Jets. His name has been out there.
Yeah.
He's been around. He had some, solid years.
Yeah, and
In Atlanta.
they came from a run play winning the Super Bowl when he
Correct.
was there against New England.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, we'll wait and see. But one thing about football now, it's a 12-month, it's a 12-month
Absolutely.
job. 12-month job, especially with the doing shows like this, social media and everything else. So I don't know where they go. I mean, I guess I would be content with either or. But like I said, the Jones thing was, they that Hard Knocks. I think that's probably going to be the death of Schoen. But I think that really kind of planted the seed, if you will, for the whole season, because it just didn't seem like he didn't want to be bothered with Barkley. And I just don't want to. I mean, listen, I like Saquon Barkley. I just don't want to. I don't want Philly winning the Super Bowl. As a Giant fan, and listen, if they do, they do. But I mean, I just don't. Nothing against Barkley, but not this season at all, because it just it left a sour taste in my mouth that he left and he went right down the turnpike.
Well, here's the thing, though, right? You watch Hard Knocks, and I watched it. The night it debuted, and I watched each episode. Then I went back and watched it. Now you see a gazillion clips on social media, like you said. Hard Knocks does not make Joe Schoen look very, you want to use the word competent. I mean, basically he had 3 staff members, Rossetti, he's like the pro personnel guy, Brandon Brown, there was another scout in the room, and he's like, yeah, I'm hearing Philly's out, possibly the Bears. Who's going to pay him that money? And all 3 gentlemen kind of expressed, some reservations about that. And ultimately, what's going to happen is that made him look silly. I mean, he was adamant that, Philly's not, I'm hearing Philly's out. His information was awful. Who's going to pay a running back that money? They did. I mean,
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to this, and I've said this 1,000 times, is that he knew he had no intention of bringing this guy back, right? You knew somebody was going to give him what he wanted, right? So why not move him the year before? You came up empty-handed, right? Goose egg. Got nothing back for Barkley, right? You got nothing for Jones. And when I say nothing for Jones, that's the guy that you basically chose Barkley. You could have franchised Jones, right? You gave him, you cut him. Think about this. You gave this guy $40 million a year, and you constructed the contract with a little escape clause, but you cut him. You cut a guy that at one point, not that long ago, you gave $40 million to. We're not talking about a pitcher in baseball, where you gave the guy a 10-year contract, and come year 7, his arm was shot and you dumped him. You're talking about You said, and he said it on Hard Knocks, this is going to be Daniel Jones's year.
Yeah.
I think he can't look any more foolish with Hard Knocks. Now, what's going to really annoy me, and you could write this one down, is if he does stay, if Shane stays, whatever happens with the coach, Darius Slayton is going to go away to free agency. Another guy that I said he has no intention, right? Wan'Dale Robinson, right? You still got Hyatt. Of course, you got Neighbors, right? That's fine. Why not move the guy? This is another guy, 750 yards consistently with the Giants. He's around that, right? There's a value for him. Azeez Ojulari had a few sacks, right? You got Thibodeau, you got Burns. Those are your bookends. Move the guy. You wait, the trade deadline passes, and he gets hurt. So that's Ojulari's MO. He has a few good games, he gets a few sacks, and then he can't stay on the field. Wonderful. I knew that. You knew that. Anybody listening knows that. Why not move the guy? He had 3 sacks. Move him for something. And this is going to be yet again another offseason when guys he could. And I'm saying, do players leave organizations? Of course, every year. But if this is a true rebuild, you have the Giants right now. If Joe Shane does keep his job, is not sitting in his office right now saying, "Hey, how can we keep Darius Slayton next year?" He's gone.
Yeah. Why would you sign him? Why would you sign with the team?
Why would you sign? You could have moved them for. And that's what aggravates me about a guy like Shane is that, yet again, yes, I know he got Tyrone Tracy, Tyler Nubin, of course, Malik Neighbors. The 24 class has done is hit. He hit all the marks for his 2024 draft class. But the Barkley thing, I think he just looks utterly foolish. And you basically lost him for nothing. You knew you were never going to sign. If you read in between the lines, every Hard Knocks episode that Barkley was referenced, he had a look on his face like, I don't know if he was expecting Barkley to come back and say, hey.
Yeah, he's not going to leave the Giant. He's not going to leave the franchise. He's not
again, and if you really break down, not last free agency, but the following year, when they tried to do a deal, right, in that window, they were like $1 to $2 million off, right? So let's say that information is accurate because sometimes things are underreported. But let's say if they were $1 to $2 million off, right? And this is what gets me about John Mara. I know you want your football people, right, to run the team, and you don't want to, step on toes. You want to let your football people do their thing. You're right. If you lost this guy over $1 to $2 million for $2 million a year, shame on the Giants.
Yeah, he deserves to get fired. That's the case. But I mean,
if that's the case, right? And I just think, like you said, you hear things, and then you could reference everything back to Hard Knocks, and he looks foolish. Yeah. He looks foolish.
And I don't think you're ever going to get another. I don't think the Giants ever do Hard Knocks again. So I mean,
no.
Speaking of Hard Knocks, have you been watching the AFC?
I have not. I have to get into that. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's. I mean, Cleveland. They're trying to pump up Cleveland, but
it's one of it. It's one of the more interesting divisions. It is.
Yeah. Well, one thing too, it's interesting to see the Mike Tomlin, Russell Wilson relationship. Even though they lost the last couple of games, but it's nice to see there, and then Zach Taylor, and also with Cincinnati. And I'm a sports fan. It's nice to see that other side of sports, the relationships and everything else. So, well, coming into this weekend, who do you think is in and who do you think is out? Who do you think is
I'm actually looking forward. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm actually looking forward to watching a Detroit Lions game in the last week of the season. That's who I'm rooting for. As the Jeremy Shockey's backup ex-Giant tight end Dan Campbell. I'm rooting for Detroit to win that division. And again, I'd love to see them, really go all the way.
Well, going back to his press conference, I mean,
people laughed at him.
So,
but I think, and again, see, it's funny you brought that up, right? People laughed at him, and we're not going to get into the words that he chose, But the statement he made that day is that we're going to change the culture of the Detroit Lions, and he certainly has done that.
Yeah, and then
Certainly done
also credit to their GM. I mean,
Correct.
Goff is, he made a lot of right moves.
Well, the whole
So
Goff move when they shipped Stafford out for Goff, they thought Goff was just going to be some sort of stopgap. He was
yeah,
going to be a temporary option for them. And listen, he's looked great. And again, I think maybe it's because in this area, you have Dan Campbell, the ex-Giant, Aaron Glenn, the ex-Jet. I think they're just a maybe because Detroit's been so bad for so long. They're a highly rootable organization.
yeah,
Right
you always
now.
want to root for the underdog, and then with them, talk about at least the Giants have 4 Super Bowls. We've covered shows of former players and everything else. They have nothing to show for it. Talking about a snake bitten franchise.
Yeah.
They had Barry Sanders all those years, and had Wayne Fontes there. There are some people saying that Barry Sanders saved Wayne Fontes' job, that he should have been fired a long time ago. But they had Herman Moore, all those teams. I mean that's recent history, but they made it to the conference championship, never made it to the Super Bowl. So they came close last year. So I don't know, maybe this is their year. And then, look, one of the greatest stories in the NFL this year is Sam Darnold. We know him from
Oh,
watching
that's
the Jets. I mean, so that's going to be an interesting game. I like to see Tampa Bay. There's stuff going around social media this week about Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield being on the Carolina Panthers. And, they both on the same
yeah.
roster. And look at them now. So I'm a big
Well,
Baker
like
Mayfield.
you just said too. Yeah. What it's interesting, right? You got Sam Darnold, who the Jets screwed up. Then you got Todd Bowles coaching Tampa Bay, who the Jets couldn't fire fast enough.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and Mayfield, Mayfield's a great story. He got
Yeah.
resurrected with the Rams. People forget that.
Yeah, and listen, he's a gunslinger, but
Yeah.
he is who he is. So, this is one of the better weekends of the year. But I wish for the Giants they had something to play for. But what do you
I
think about the
agree.
Jet? What do you think about the Jets? You think that they're in worse position than the Giants, or the same position? Or, I mean, one thing, they fired their coach and GM already.
Yes.
So
Well, I mean, the Jets, again, right now, if you look at like who's in a worse position, I mean, the Jets, I don't want to say they have a leg up, but they started the process of of trying to find their next GM and next coach. Where it goes, nobody knows. I mean, where do they go? They have no quarterback situation. They do have talent on that roster, especially when healthy on the defensive side of the ball. They do have some playmakers that are a little disenfranchised. Aaron Rodgers definitely hurt them.
And he's
You know,
showing his age. He's showing his age. He was such a great player. He's definitely showing his age. But you
yeah.
think Rex Ryan, but that was done out of courtesy, or do you think that they're seriously considering him?
Again, with Woody Johnson, you never know. That would be a mistake. I mean, listen, I love Rex. Rex is good for TV. Rex
Yeah,
was great coaching the Jets.
yeah.
Um,
We laughed about it years ago. The Jets are coming.
yeah, I
From
mean,
another press conference, the
yeah,
Jets
I
are
mean,
coming.
again,
So
he made them interesting, to say the least. But again, I hate saying this, right? I say this about John Gruden, right? Rex's best teams, his biggest success with the Jets, the back-to-back playoff runs to the AFC Championship, both times were done with the team, right, or a team that was constructed by Eric Mangini.
yeah,
So,
and
I mean, after that, when, they had to quote unquote, rebuild and retool, that's when things kind of went south. And the interesting thing, and I read this recently, it just kind of reinforced it, is that basically after those 2 AFC championship runs, his defenses got progressively worse each and every year. And, again, there's a lot of things that Rex does, I mean, I think at some point, it just wears thin on the players. Like, it comes in, it's
yeah,
instant excitement. He gets the players to play for him, but I think his way, I think after a while, just kind of wears off. And I think he's great where he's at, which is on TV. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But like, I think Bill Parcells said it too. Like in his book, after a while, they heard all your stories. So I think
Right, right, right.
Rex Ryan, but just turn it into a different, different. You read a lot of books. What would you say your top five best sports books if somebody's looking to get through the cold winter months, and your top five sports movies that
Um,
you like?
Top five books. I would say two of my favorite books, and it covered the same period, if you will, for the Giants, in different perspectives, was the GM, which was written by Ernie Accorsi. He got into obviously his career. Many people might have forgotten Ernie Accorsi. His connection to the Giants was he was at the Colts, and George Young used to work for the Colts. So
Yes.
that was how he got to the Giants. But he wrote a book, and it was very interesting. It was a lot of it was about, his experience. Obviously, he drafted John Elway with the Colts. Obviously, Elway didn't come to the Colts, and then he drafted Eli Manning, and he kind of got into the evaluation period of making sure that he got both of those picks right. He got both of those picks right. Obviously, unfortunately, Elway didn't want to go to the Colts. That's book number one. And Tom Coughlin's book about the first Super Bowl, I thought was very, very interesting, because he kind of gave you the insight that kind of he basically described his self transformation, as that militaristic type of guy to being a little bit more player friendly. And that kind of really broke down game by game, almost practice, but from practice to practice of that first Super Bowl run. Um, those are two early on. I mean, you want to really go retro, you can never go wrong. I actually loved Living on the Edge, which was about Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
There's a few Phil Simms books that's for the Giants. Um, now you're talking about movies. I mean, you got to always go in another light. I know I just gave you heavy football books, but you always got to go. I think Miracle on Ice for
Oh,
movies. I
oh,
mean,
yeah.
that never disappoints. I mean, that's a remote drop. Rudy is a good story.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the winter months is definitely a good time to catch up on, a lot of these 30 for 30s. I really enjoyed the one recently about the Jets, the sack exchange, the two bills about Belichick and Parcells. That was good.
Yeah.
Those 30s for 30s. I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find any of them, that weren't interesting or weren't good.
Yeah, I mean, I like the U with Miami. They did
Yeah,
one from the '80s, and then one for, I like the Unguarded one with Chris Herring. That was
yeah.
a good one. I mean, so I'm a big 30 for 30 fan myself. So, but other than that, Jerry, I think that we're coming up to it. But this episode was produced by Chop Sports Media and Dave Sturcio. Thank you, Dave, for changing over the graphics. Anybody interested in podcasting, reach out to Dave. He always does a good job. He's in one thing good about this year, at least the Cowboys aren't making the playoffs, so the Giants, so he can't rub it in our face. But I'll let you take this episode out, episode number 30, first one of 2025, Jerry. So,
Hey, Jimmy, listen, we look forward to a great 2025. 2024, I think we were kind of both surprised, where this podcast started to go. A lot of good guests. We had a lot of Giants on. We have our Montreal Expos friends that are always watching us. And, we look to continue and build upon that, in 2025. I'm looking forward in a way for the Giants season to end, just to see, what the immediate future brings, and whatever they decide. Hopefully they decide very quickly, because, I think Black Monday is going to be very, very active. With all that being said, thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon enough with more exciting guests. Another big shout out to Dave Sturcio, our producer. Happy New Year, everyone, and we'll catch you soon.
all
Take
right.
care.
Happy New Year,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Take care, Jerry. We'll see you
Take
next
care, Jim.
next time.